The Paul Leslie Hour, helping people tell their stories. And now, your host, Paul Leslie.
Hey, it's me. Hello and welcome to the Paul Leslie Hour. Thank you for tuning in. Before we get into the interview, I would be honored if you would consider going to thepaulleslie.com and clicking Support the Show. There are quite a number of things I want to accomplish with the Paul Leslie Hour, and you can help me get more of these interviews out there to the masses. It only takes a moment, and it makes a world of difference. Last but not least, tell someone about the Paul Leslie Hour. Let them know in whatever way you can. And now let's get into the interview. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you I'm deliriously happy to be talking to Ray Dorset. He is the front man of Mungo Jerry.
No, I am Mungo Jerry. I have to correct you on that. I've been Mungo Jerry since 1972, beginning of 1972, because when I recorded in the summertime, there were four of us, and the collective name of the four people that recorded in the summertime was called Mungo Jerry. That's what we went out and do gigs as, and one thing and another. But when I came back from a lengthy tour, it was almost 2 months of the Far East, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Hong Kong, all this kind of stuff. The keyboard player, Colin Earl, who is the brother of Roger Earl, the drummer of Foghat, and Paul King, the banjo player, they decided that they were going to have a new singer, and nobody thought it was a good idea because I wrote the songs and I was the front man and I was the singer and all this kind of stuff, and they were going to get this guy called Dave Lambert, who actually ended up writing part of the Union. I don't know if you know a band called Straubs out in the USA. A keyboard player from the Straubs was Rick Wakeman. And, you know, Rick Wakeman ended up being a keyboard player with Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Their most iconic recordings. And the guys from the record company, the management, they said, well, what if you go out to do a gig? And the promoter says, where's Mungo? Because by this time, everyone was calling me Mungo. So I was christened Mungo Jerry, the artist-performer, and Ray Dorset, the songwriter, composer. But obviously people like yourself and a lot of other people in the press, they've got pretty good knowledge of the original the lineup that actually recorded that particular first album and in the summertime. And even on Wikipedia it says like Ray Dorset was the front man of Mungo Jerry. There's always changing lineups, but it's not the case. I'm Mungo Jerry, the artist performer, and that enabled me to explore all the kinds of genres of music that I like or indulge myself with, because it's like most people, you might enjoy a steak or you might enjoy fish, but you don't want to have the same thing all the time. Mm-hmm. You want to enjoy the things that you like to enjoy, and I'm the only thing that limits me is the fact that I dislike things that have been made in a premeditated fashion. You know, I've actually recorded things myself because I've been asked to do so by various entities, including the record company. But I like everything that's natural. I'm a kind of guy that's been brought up on all things organic, and that is where the music is. And forgive me if I'm talking too much, and interrupt me and tell me to shut up if I talk too much.
No,
but
sir.
I could carry on talking a long time. But shall I let you ask me another question?
Well, I love to listen, and I'm happy to listen. But I do have some questions, and one of those questions would be, for somebody who really wants to listen to the catalog of what you've done, mm-hmm. You were mentioning variety. Some days you might want a salad. Some days you might want steak. Some days you might want fish. When you look at the Mungo Jerry catalog and you go listening around, you're going to hear a lot of different kinds of things. So with that said, is it possible to describe Mungo Jerry music?
Yeah, I can describe it really good. And that is Mungo Jerry music.
Your own genre.
But what else can I say? But really, there's no good music and there's no bad music. You either like it or you don't.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. Okay? If it sounds right, it is right. There's a lot of stuff I don't like, but then there's a lot of stuff that's been really, really successful, made a lot of money, it's made a lot of people happy, and I really don't like it. I don't listen to it. But then there's I like rockabilly, I like blues, I like rural blues, I like soul, I like funk, I like jazz, swing, all kinds of stuff. But I don't like. I'll tell you one thing that I just don't like, and I don't really want to upset a lot of people. But all this X Factor stuff and this Britain's Got Talent or USA's Got Talent, the problem with all this is you get singers that have got fantastic timbre to their voices. They sound good, but unfortunately, with all these TV programs, they've got singing coaches, and the singing coaches try and get everyone to sing in the same way, in the same manner, in the same style. So it all sounds the same to me. And the songs, is an overuse of, the misuse of technology. Misuse of technology is fucking up the whole world. Sorry, I better not swear. I don't want to say that. So excuse my French. Misuse of technology is messing up the whole world. And as you can see, what's happened to us at the moment, it's probably a misuse of technology that's caused this pandemic and everything else, and all the pollution that we've got. We've got plastic in the oceans, plastic in the snow, drowning in a sea of waste, and it's not getting any better. And everybody wants your money. The media, to me, have promoted the celebrity lifestyle and the rock and roll lifestyle to such a degree, only because they want to sell their periodicals or their newspapers or whatever to get advertising revenue, and they don't care about the state of the nation. It's a typical state in the UK, and I spent a lot of time in Europe, and it's found itself all around the world. And I like music because I just like music, and it's a good hobby to have. And it wasn't my ambition to go out and become a full-time member of the music business. It just happened that I wrote a song, it went to #1. So I was working in a research laboratory for Timex, who's part of the United States Time Corporation. And my ambition was I was going to have my own research laboratory and doing electronics and mechanical engineering, all that kind of stuff. But I like music as a hobby, and there you go. I was #1, and next week I had to say to my boss, can I take the afternoon off work? And he says, why? And I thought, well, I've got to go and do Top of the Pops on BBC TV, and that was it. And then you start to think, I'd never been out of the country before, and you start to think, people that wouldn't give me the time of the day, that was upstairs, if you like. It was, hi Ray, how's it going, man? Yeah. Everyone wants to be your friend. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is often the case with politicians. They court people that are attached to that kind of fame. A lot of people make a lot of money, and they can sit quietly behind whatever the screens and enjoy it. But some people, they just want that celebrity status. They want to be known. It's terrible. It's really, really sick. And it sounds as though I'm complaining, but I am. But you can carry on asking me another question, because I don't want to sound too arrogant. But you asked me about musical genres, and that's it. And I've given you quite a background to a simple answer.
Well, you were mentioning having a #1. Would you say that success can be something that's hard to handle?
Excess or did you say success?
Success, yes. Success.
How would you catalogue or evaluate success?
Well, I would say success in the music business would be demand, interest from people, because it's so hard for artists. But
don't you think success is an individual? It's something that's up to the individual. What if they think it's successful? Yeah, the onlooker will see success as a different way to the person that they think has got success.
True.
For me, success is if you're trying to drill a hole through a wall and you can't get through, you haven't been successful. But if you get through that wall, or if you manage to open the safe and take all the money out, you've been successful in doing that. And if I set out to have a number one record, and it went to number one, I would say that was being successful. But I didn't seek to that. The success, what I say success, is being happy and being content with your own life and the people around you and being healthy. You know, so there's more to life than making money, even though we all need money. I was brought up with the wrong ideas. You know, my mother used to say money is the root of all evil. And it was rude to talk about money. It didn't do me any good, but it's only in the recent years, in my old age, if you like, you say, it's not the love of money. Money is not the root of all evil. It's the love of money that's the root of all evil. And greed, jealousy, honor, all these terms that are used for people, these are the things that cause conflict in the nations around the world. You know, it could be, people have disagreements about religion, they have disagreements about, all kinds of stuff. But conflict actually sells. So that's why the soap operas on TV soaps and all this kind of stuff, it's always based on conflict, isn't it? Because people like to watch other people arguing and fighting.
True. Very true.
So there you go. That's my answer to that one.
Well, you said that you define success as being happy. Why do you think happy?
No, it's an individual. Look,
I got you.
It's like did you read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Mechanics?
I did not. No.
Do you know the book Zen and the Art of? Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you know this?
No.
Okay, well, it came out about 1970. Define quality. There's something. How can you define quality? And it's the same way defining success. It's for the individual to decide what success is, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how would you define happiness?
This is something else. It's for the person that is happy. They can say they're happy or they're not happy. Yeah. It's not for me to define happiness. It's for the individual to decide whether they're happy or they're not happy. I can't tell you how to be happy, can I? You might be happy drinking a bottle of bourbon or a bottle of Jack Daniels and Coke every day. So that might make you content and make you happy. You won't be happy after a few months of doing it because you'll be on your back.
Right. With all the different kinds of sound that one can hear in Mungo Jerry, I'm hoping you can tell us about the bands, the singers, the artists that you would say has had the biggest influence on you.
Yeah, there's loads of them. There's no one artist. I mean, when I was a young kid, right, I mean, it wasn't just a question of what things sounded like. I mean, I was influenced just as much as like the kid next door, like everybody, So when Elvis Presley came on the scene, he obviously looked good, he moved well, he made brilliant records. I mean, when you think that Hound Dog, it wasn't like a one take, but it sounds as though it was like bang, he did it in one take. But I don't know, it was, I don't know, 40 or 50, I don't know how many takes, but it sounds as though it was done spontaneously. Yeah, and they've captured a magic in that performance, however it was done. And the Scotty Moore guitar solo on that is absolutely phenomenal. That's how an electric guitar or an amplified guitar should sound to me. It sounds like it came from outer space. It was such a great sound. Now, if I tried to sing Hound Dog and make it sound convincing, I can't do it. No one can do it. I mean, that guy, the girl, or the lady that did it, was it, I can't remember her name now.
Big Mama Thornton.
Big Mama Thornton, yeah. I was going to say May. Was her name May? Was it Big Mama May? Was it May Thornton?
It might be.
M-A-E? Yeah, anyway, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it's good. But, I mean, that was fantastic. And then Bill Haley, I mean, the press in the UK, I don't know about in America, they always they gave Bill Haley a kind of a bad press in a sense because he was older and a little bit chubby. But he had the most phenomenal band. I mean, he had this Rudy Pompelli, he had, you know, the guitar players, all the stuff, the rhythm and the groove. And, you know, I met his biographer when I was in New York, and he gave me a book. And it was so interesting because I think one afternoon they recorded on a cinema stage, you know, something like, I think it was, I don't know if it's Don't Knock the Rock or whatever, or See You Later, Alligator. They recorded about 3 or 4 hits all in one go, all live, you know. And they captured that magic. Fats Domino, it's another one. Captured the magic in the studio. 1 or 2 microphones. They played it all together. Then you get other things, you know, you get Otis Redding going in there and having a go at doing, say, his version of Satisfaction. All spontaneously. He captured the magic. Marvin Gaye, he goes in there, does I Heard It Through the... No one can go in there and copy Marvin Gaye's performance of I Heard It Through the Grapevine. But then Creedence did it, yeah, and they didn't try and what's his name, the singer, whatever his name, I can't remember his name. He didn't try and sing it like Marvin Gaye. He did it in John Fogerty. He did it in his own way, and it sounds fantastic. It's got a groove, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like you look. I slag someone off now. You go and listen to Bruno Mars, Uptown Funk, yeah. How many people involved in the writing of that track? Brilliant, slick video, all the colours, all the dancing, fantastic. Not a note wrong on the record. You listen to it for a while, and it drives you mad because it's got no groove to it, it's got no feel to it.
Yeah.
Same as that Happy. The Happy by what's his name? Happy and all that. Yeah. It's the same. It's the same thing. Okay, you listen to it a bit longer, but then it gets tiring. But all the stuff that's made organically, that was captured a performance, anyone can go in the studio and get what you say, everything perfectly in time, and perfect sounds, great dynamics and all this kind of stuff. But music is an art form. And art is about conveying, the producer of the art conveys their emotion or an emotion to the viewer or the listener. And you get this in a movie, you get it in paintings, you get it in literature, you get it in music. I listen to a lot of classical music, I don't know anything about it. But you imagine what those guys could do. Mozart and Beethoven, they visualize in their head what every part of that orchestra was going to play and wrote it down with the dynamics and the tempo changes and everything. That's a talent. That's a gift. And it's just, you tell me what's happening today in the music industry, the music business. It's all it is, it used to be money for plastic in the 80s. Yeah. Late 70s. To me, a lot of the music, I mean, I liked some of the punk stuff, the garage, American and UK, whatever, garage rock. This was great. No pretense. They just played it. But when the press start to play out all the antics of the people that were involved in, like the Sex Pistols, like I have to swear, they have to throw up everywhere, and all these heavy metal guys, they got to have 10 belts on to play do you need to wear 10 belts and have 15 million tattoos and piercings to play a rock song? Yeah, you don't know, do you?
No,
you don't need. But people thought you had to do it. But there's great bands out, but the image is obviously to draw attention to the music. But sometimes the image overtakes the music. Yeah?
Very true.
So, I mean, I could be a fan. There's a lot of stuff like Kiss, right? I mean, this thing about, it's a great thing what they did in a sense, with the image and selling the show. But it could be a circus. I like the circus. I like pantomimes. You get great performers, but they're not known as the stars or whatever, are they? It's all. There's a lot of stuff. I can talk for hours about all this kind of stuff, and I don't want you to think that I don't want the listeners to think that I'm running everybody down. But there's a certain psychological factor that makes people get up on stage and perform. And on the one hand, you've got people that get up there because they want to give something to the audience. So there's a therapeutic experience for the audience to be involved. But then again, even if it's just on the image and it's a rock thing and everyone's got their hands in the air and they're clapping and jumping up and down, that is a therapeutic experience because they're getting away from whatever problems they have in their everyday life or the problems they've had for that particular day. And for that hour or 2 hours or what is that their heroes are on stage, they are actually escaping from the reality of the life or any problems they have, and they're enjoying themselves, which is good. It's like going to church. You know, it's like you go to church, the preacher is all jumping around, they're playing the gospel music. Yeah, it's great. Like you see Aretha Franklin and stuff in the Blues Brothers. This is great. But on the other hand, you do get people that think that they're God's gift and they're owed something, and they get on stage and they want everyone to say how great they are, and they might dress up and they need the public adulation because they're insecure in everyday life. And I've seen people like that. And when they don't become, as you say, successful, right, in inverted commas, which means they're not selling or they're not getting the adulation that they want from the public, like not the critics, because very often underground type of artists like Nick Cave, I won't say Nick Cave because he's still with us, he's still alive, but there's a lot of guys, you know the 27 Club that you probably hear of, yeah?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The tabloid newspapers and a lot of the rock press, they praise these people. But there's nothing glamorous about ODing and when you're 27, is it? Like
no.
Amy Whitehouse, Jim Morrison. I could name you a whole bunch of people. I mean, Jim Morrison, I'm a big Doors fan. I love everything the Doors. That's one of the bands that I can listen to everything they've done. But I'm the same with the Ramones, would you believe? Right? I've got everything the Ramones ever did. I did, yeah, probably everything the Beatles, but not everything the Stones. But the Stones had a big influence on me because they introduced me more to rhythm and blues, and another branch of rock and roll. They developed their own style. But the Rolling Stones to me are a band that works as a band. As soon as they go off and do their things individually, it's not worth a light. It doesn't work. And I think most people would probably agree with me. Even though Mick Jagger is a phenomenal... I mean, the Stones are performance-wise. If you like that sort of thing, great. You didn't need lasers. You didn't need loads of lights. You didn't need smoke. You didn't need bombs. Same like Elvis. You see those performances he did, you know, in about 55 or wherever it was, 56, when he's out there playing on the back of a truck or whatever. It all just happens, you know, as it adds to the excitement of the music with the way he kind of moved around and everything. But then again, I used to jump around and try and act like, before I used to sit down because I thought it seems more serious because I'm playing jug band, skiffle, rural blues. To me, it's more serious. I'm talking and I'm using some of the phrases that Led Betty said and Johnny Hooker said and all that kind of stuff. It's not 100% original. I just put my own take on it. But then when I found myself standing up, I thought, well, you've got to move around and do this. You know, I started doing the James Brown thing, pretending you've got electric shock on stage and get the roadies to carry her off. And Bruce Springsteen's done all that. They've all done this, yeah. But when I went to see Van Morrison, when he stopped jumping around and he's got this absolutely brilliant, I just opened his mouth and this brilliant voice comes out. Fantastic. Now, I should have realised that when I met Roy Orbison. I did a TV show in Manchester in England with Roy Orbison. And he just stood there and opened his mouth and he sounds like Roy Orbison. And it was good because I had a talk with him because I had a pair of Roy Orbison's trousers. Right? You know what? If I say trousers, that's American, you say pants, don't you, in the States? Would you?
Some of us say trousers, but pants, yeah.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah, he was over in the UK and in London, in the Carnaby Street or something, and he ordered some pants here to be made, and he didn't like them, how they were built. And me and my band, and this is like pre-Mungo days, was friendly with this American guy that was working in one of these, in the tailors in the shop, whatever it was, don't know what one, Lord John or I don't know what it was. And he used to come up with the stuff that hadn't been picked up or had been thrown out, and we used to share it out. I had a load of it. It was good, so it was great. They didn't even fit me good, but I was so pleased to have a pair of Royals and trousers, so I used to wear them to work. And it was great to talk to him. And later on, funny enough, I never met Roy Orbison again, but I met his wife, Barbara. And Barbara Orbison actually comes from the same city in Germany where my wife comes from. This is Bielefeld. And I met her a couple of times. And it was great because when you go back to the Roy Orbison stuff, I mean, he wrote some great tune, great rock and roll things. I mean, have you ever heard Roy Orbison's version of Claudette? You know the song Claudette that the Everly Brothers recorded?
Oh yeah.
Have you heard that?
I haven't.
On the Sun, Sun Records, there's a collection of stuff that was done and outtakes and things. And he's on there just his voice and guitar. And when he goes to the middle A section, he makes a mistake and he goes, "Oh crap!" And then he carries on playing. And it's on the recording. It's fantastic. So yeah, well, I don't know. I probably got off the ball from where you were talking about. So bring me back where we were.
Well, you do bring up a good point there, and you're mentioning like the imperfection that can happen. Some people call it imperfection. Some people would call it reality.
Mm.
When I'm hearing a recording, and you mentioned some of these pop songs like the Bruno Mars or the Pharrell's "Happy" and that kind of stuff.
Mm.
A lot of times, that stuff to me, it sounds like it's too perfect. It's too like there's something that I think I enjoy about like you were saying, Roy Orbison. Like this is reality. This is what happened.
Mm.
You agree?
100%, man. I 100% agree with you. But then, and when you say it sounds too perfect, that means it's not perfect, doesn't it?
Yeah. There's a
in the summertime. Like, let's go back. We go back to In the Summertime because it's the most known and the most played summer song in the world.
Definitely.
It's known in the Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere. It's male, female, covered about 5 generations now. It's a celebration of life lyrically. It's got no chorus. In the Summertime is the first line of the first verse. There's no middle 8 section, and that's all it is. And it only comes once in the song because on the record it was too short, so I made it longer by just joining the beginning onto the end. Right. So I'm saying in the summertime when the weather is high pressure means the rain's not coming down. You can stretch right up, put your arms in the air, and touch the sky, feeling of euphoria. So lyrically, that kind of works, celebration of life. But when people hear it, they think it's what you call a 12 bar. They think there's 3 chords in there. But basically there are. But because I use my little finger and hold down the notes at strange places, it gives it another slant. And because when Colin Earl played the piano on it, he was very limited. He was a big Jerry Lee Lewis fan on the piano, and I love Jerry Lee Lewis. So this is why he sings and everything. And Colin was also an Otis. Have you heard of Otis Spann?
Oh yeah,
yeah. He was an Otis Spann fan as well. But he could only play dung 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 dung. That's all he could do on his left hand. Right? Or da dung 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 dung. That's all he could do. So whatever he played, he would end up doing that. So when I've done TV shows and they've given me the house band to play in the summertime, they don't bother to learn it properly because they think, it's only 3 chords and it sounds crap. It sounds really rubbish. And it's very, very difficult for a piano player to go dun 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 on the left hand, but on the right hand have the independence to go dun 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 dun. It's a totally different groove. So what I did, I've mixed up a whole mishmash of genres within the framework, played in the key of E, using 3 basic chords, E, A, and B. And it should be a B7, but I'm playing an E6, an A6, or whatever. I'm playing different things, and it misses up. And sometimes Colin made a note, would play a minor third when he should have been playing like a major or a 6. And the clash adds to it. And I made the mistake because I played the guitar with my fingers when I played the electric guitar. So I caught my finger on 2 strings at once, and I've only ever been able to do that once again. But the magic was that Barry Murray, who's a friend of mine and listened to it, doing the producer, I didn't know much about producing records then, he said, that sounds great. And we left it at that. Obviously I put the stamp on, the stomp on it because there was no drums. I used mouth percussion. First number one record to have a beatbox on it. Yeah. I used a cabasa. I used an acoustic guitar, and to get that groove, and a double bass, like a stand-up bass instead of an electric bass, which Mike Cole played fantastically. And then Paul King's playing the banjo. I don't know what he played on banjo, but it adds to it, see. And he's playing ding, ding, ding. So he's playing another rhythm over it, but an amalgam of various rhythms and notes all put together makes for something that sounds very, very interesting. It catches your ear. So even technically, a well-studied musician will say that's not correct. But when you hear it all as a whole, as it's pleasing to the ears, then it works. And that's what happened. And it worked. I mean, the record went straight into the charts at number 13 after about 3 or 4 days of sales. So it wasn't on the strength of the image of the band. It was only on going on TV and seeing the image, how we looked as well, that we looked like a bunch of crazy, I don't know, it was like, so I say well-groomed hippies. It wasn't that. It was, I don't know what it was. It was a mixture of a lot of stuff that was going on at that particular time, throwback from the 60s going into the 70s. And it kind of took off all around the world. And it goes on and on and on to this day. But that doesn't make me, a lot of artists, they have their first record is a major, major, major hit. And they dumb it down because they want to go. It's like Jeff Beck. Jeff Beck is a phenomenal guitar player, and I used to see him in a band called the Tridents. Saw him when he was with Rod Stewart, the Jeff Beck group with Rod Stewart singing. And he's great. He's a really brilliant guitar player, but overdoes it playing all these silly, crazy, funny noises and this stuff, which might impress other musicians, but the general public, they don't take. But he had this major, massive, massive hit with a song. Do you know Hi Ho Silver Lining? Do you know that?
Oh, yeah.
Pop song?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But he would never play it live. It's like Thin Lizzy. I got friendly with Phil Lynott because when I went over to Ireland in 1970, they supported us at a festival. And then Phil Lynott came and spoke to me next time I met him and started talking about all this stuff. And I played at Bristol University, and Phil Lynott played Whiskey in the Jar, and didn't play the bass. He played rhythm guitar, and he gave this a Perspex guitar, and can't remember the name of the guitar player. And he played this tune, great, lovely record, lovely. But then after he got the other hits like Boys Are Back in Town, they wouldn't play it anymore. But then I was with Tony Visconti. Have you heard of Tony Visconti, the producer?
Yeah, I don't know.
He T-Rex?
No, I don't know that one.
T-Rex, Mark Bolan. Get It On, and they're massive loads of like big glam rock thing. He was massive in Europe and in England. Well, yeah, we must have had some hits in America. I don't know. Anyway, Tony Visconti produced T-Rex. I produced David Bowie. And I was in the studio with him, and I said, it's great, this album that you did with Thin Lizzy called Live and Dangerous. It was a big album hit. It's a live album. He said, and he went, oh yeah. He said, but the only thing live on it is the audience. And I thought, hey, I learned something from that. It was great. I'm going to go and start messing around with my live recordings. Right? You get the audience, and then you record everything over the top of it. There's so many tricks. People don't realise that there's this. It's a weird state of affairs,
Mm-hmm. Well, that song, In the Summertime, I want to tell all the listeners out there, the first time that we spoke on the phone, you called and you asked, "Is that Paul?" And I said, "Yes." And then you said, "This is," and you started to hum, da 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 da. That brought just such a huge smile to my face.
Oh, good.
I'll never get over that thrill.
I'm glad you were happy about that, man. That's good. I mean, we need something to make us happy these days, don't we? It's because things are not getting any better at the moment.
That's true.
It's getting worse in the UK. It's getting worse. I've got news channels on like 24/7 here, Russian news, French news, I've got Al Jazeera, I've got CNN, all the Sky and all this kind of stuff, and they've all got a similar take on what's going on at the moment. And we're in a scary, it's scary for the economics of the entertainment business or industry, whatever you like to call it.
Definitely.
But Netflix, I'm not advertising Netflix, but they're not giving anything to me. But I will say that I'm getting a lot out of the stuff that they've got on there, all these documentaries and these series. Do you know what I just watched?
What's that?
You never believe it. Oh, do you know Cobra Kai?
Oh, yeah. I've heard about this.
I've watched the whole. I think it was aimed at teenagers or whatever. I don't know. Well, I've watched the whole 3 series, and I just go onto there and watch documentaries in, and then I put this other thing on. Have you heard of Resurrection, Ertugrul?
I haven't heard of that.
I think it's Turkish. That all the history, of the Knights of Templar and the Crusaders and all this kind of stuff, and Islam, and and I started watching it a couple of years ago, and I turned it back on. I realised I'd watched I'm on the 88th episode, and I complained to people about watching soap opera, soaps, and yet I found myself, this is a kind of a soap, but because it's set in the ancient times and you're learning a lot about ancient history, I've had it on there, but I can't watch things day and night. I got into watching a lot of music documentaries, and that is interesting as well, like Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine and stuff like this. So, but by the way, you asked me about other people that I've been influenced by. Of course, I can't. Little Richard is one of my all-time singing heroes and performers, and Chuck Berry and James Brown. They've all added something, like their outlook on life, their attitude, their mentality, how they drove the band, how they drove the rhythm, how they drove the show. But because of all the corruption in the music business or music industry, and I don't know, do you say industry or do you say the business?
I say both, but usually industry.
Yeah, because industry is a term that's been coined by people in the entertainment world. When filmmaking, anything to do with movies, they say, "Oh, the industry." Same with music. "Oh, the industry." But it's a business at the end of the day, isn't it? And when I found out, it was about towards mid to late 70s. Me being a very, very naive person and believing everything that I was told, I used to go along with the flow. But then it came to my knowledge that the whole music industry was full of corruption. It was certainly, records were being bought into the charts. Backhanders were given holidays, all sorts of stuff. And I thought, this is crazy. I just want to be an indie guy. You got to think, like when Sam Phillips did the Sun label, he did it because he just did it himself in the studio. And he recorded stuff and stuck it out. Same with Norman Petty, me being a mad Buddy Holly fan, appreciating what Buddy Holly did for rockabilly, Tex-Mex sound, songs, pop songs, how he played the guitar. This guy was phenomenal. But in those days, the people used to just go and make the stuff, and then the majors, they weren't record companies. They were hardware manufacturers. RCA, EMI, they used to make machines. They made radar, they made radios, they made TVs. Yeah, Universal made movies. Sony, the only reason Sony got into the music business was because they invented the DAT machine and people didn't want them to do it. They were digitally cloning the masters, and they tried to put them out of business. So Sony started buying up catalogue, and then they took over the movie industry and the music industry as well, to a degree. And you see, these days, there's only about 4 major companies in the world. You got Sony, you got Universal, you got Warner, and you got BMG Chrysalis. Yeah, and BMG is a strange company, a private company. I mixed up like Bertelsmann, German firm, but they're all the same. And people say, "Oh, I went to Universal and I spoke to someone. I spoke to Universal on the phone. I spoke to Columbia on the phone. You don't speak to Columbia on the phone. You speak to somebody that's employed by that massive multinational conglomerate that will tell you anything that they want in order for them to keep their job and get paid. And most people in those kind of companies, they will try and push out whoever is above them so they can go into their place. And have you ever heard of the Peter Principle?
I think I've heard of this. Tell us what it is. Peter
Principle, well, basically, I mean, it's a management book. It was really aimed at management stuff. But it's the same in all walks of life. The Peter Principle is everybody rises to their own level of incompetence. Which is true, isn't it?
Yeah, that's very true.
Think about it. We all rise to our own level of incompetence. You've got to know when to stop. And if you want to get somewhere in life, right, whether you want to accumulate wealth or you want to accumulate loads of women or you want to, whatever you want to do, yeah, you have to think of a way to get there. It's like if I planned a journey to go from Los Angeles to San Francisco, I would work out the route I want to take, you know, and I like the route like going up like Santa Barbara, Big Sur, yeah. But you have to know which route you're going to take. So you have to make a plan. And if you want to get where you're going to go, sometimes you can't go straight there. You have to go backwards a bit. You have to go sideways, and then you go up. You're climbing a mountain. You don't go straight from the bottom to the top. You go up a bit, sideways, down, around, and yeah. And that's it. It's like if you regard your life as being in tune with nature, because we're like all is one and one is all, as Aleister Crowley said, and we are all part of the same thing. We all come out of the earth. We're all related to each other. We're all, as soon as you die, another life begins. You know, the decomposition. You know, you've got to bear all that in mind. And when you start messing around with nature, you can't. Nature will always come out on top. And if you think of nature, you think of the music of nature is the music of the birds, of the trees being blown in the wind, the water, you know, the waves on the sea, on the stuff on the rivers, and all this kind. This is real music, and it comes. That's why there was meditation music and all the stuff. You know, they try and make it sound as real and as organic as possible.
Yeah.
And this is something I believe, and you find this in life. But people are not happy because they think, if I haven't got a car, if I haven't got a new Mercedes like the guy next door's got, and I've got a Kia, and I should have had a Mercedes, then you think, I haven't done very good. But it's bullshit, man. You don't need that. In fact, why don't they start making cars again in the States? So all those American cars, I love American cars from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 30s. They're works of art. I love them. They're definitely works of art. But now, I'm going to get off the. Do you know what? I'm going to get off the case here. So you just tell me to shut up.
I'm enjoying all the things that you have to say.
Oh, good. That's all right. I'm glad you are.
The song In the Summertime has been covered by so many different people. A lot of people can remember seeing it in a certain movie, like in Wedding Crashers. It's kind of prominent. Here in the United States, in the Southeast, we have a very popular and much-loved grocery store, Publix. And they had one of the best commercials ever, and they used In the Summertime, which it fit the commercial. So
what was the name of the store?
Publix with an X.
Publix,
yes, sir. Publix supermarkets.
Oh, how long ago was that then? I have to make sure I got a deal. I make sure it was a deal.
Oh, I'm sure they paid, but this wasn't.
I did one for I think the one that was big in the States must have been 20. I think it's 2019. Was a sandwich. They were doing sandwiches.
I think I remember that commercial too. Again, showing how prevalent the song is.
I'm going to write this Publix down. I'll have to ask my company, the guy that runs it, that does all
this
that.
Was in the 90s.
Is it Publix?
Publix, yes. It was this commercial that had all these little kids and they're playing in the yard. They're having a little summer party.
Oh, check this out.
It was
Publix supermarket.
Yep.
Obviously, you probably realise that there's been a lot of rip-offs and lots of stuff here because the trouble is in the summertime it's so familiar. It's like Happy Birthday. People think that it's in the public domain.
Right.
But it's not. It's like we've had things in Europe like cars. You press your horn on your car and it plays in the summertime. Ice cream coming around your houses, ding, and playing in bells in the summertime. All this kind of stuff. Happy Birthday. People used to think Happy Birthday was in the public domain, but that song was, well, you probably know that.
Yeah.
It was called Good Morning to You, wasn't it? That was the thing.
Very old song.
Yeah.
What has been the most surprising place you have seen one of your songs?
The most surprising and the most weirdest thing in the world ever, and you would never believe it, and it came from India. I think it was from India. And it was a whole host of honeybees buzzing, and I don't know if they buzzed how they did it, or they just sampled all the bees and played the tune on it, but they're buzzing and they're going buzz, 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 buzz. It's a whole 7-inch vinyl record of bees singing in the summertime, which I think is really crazy.
Interesting.
Well, interesting is madness, if you ask me. But I don't mind if I got paid. I don't mind.
Well, who do you think did the best version of one of your songs when somebody covered you?
It's a good question, isn't it? That's a good question. Well, I'll say with the best version, I have to again say that it's not going to be the best. It's going to be the one that I liked the most.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know why it is. I mean, obviously Shaggy's version, it went to number one. That was a good version, and the one that Billy Idol's singing was a good version on the Derek Sherinian's album Blood of the Snake, with Slash playing the guitar on it. So all that kind of stuff, and the Smashing Pumpkins doing it as an encore, and all this kind of stuff. But when In the Summertime was first released, there was an instrumental version by a band. I don't know if they came from Jamaica or they sounded like or they were London because there's a lot of reggae and like dub music, dancehall stuff came out of London, and it was by the music as an instrumental version by the Music Doctors, and I always like that.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a version on YouTube where they've just got the record going around on a turntable with the tune coming out. Not so long ago, actually, someone sent me a link to another kind of reggae type version, which was good. I liked it. I'll tell you what, I was in Austria, and in this really, like a gala, the posh thing, and I was in the breakfast room with my wife, and these two girls came along with, harp.
Oh, yeah.
Not blues harps, but harps. And I don't know if they knew I was there or what. And they sat down and playing this music. Then suddenly they started playing In the Summertime on these harps. It sounded amazing.
Wow.
Instrumental versions. It sounded so lovely. But I like the sound of harps and the Celtic harps. I like the sound of all like real instruments and things with gut strings. I think that's why Stradivarius violins sound so good. It's because they're made out of like there's a lot of craftsmanship went in there, and everything is organic. Like the lacquer is probably made from lacquer or varnish, what you put on stuff, it actually comes from insects. I think it comes from fly, I don't know, some sort of larva and all that. And then when you use wood, proper wood glue that's made from fish or animal bones, and the more organic and the more natural substances you use to make an instrument, the better it will sound. And that's why I can't get my head around. I was in the House of Guitars in Los Angeles, right? And I looked in this glass cabinet, and there was a Fender Stratocaster, black Fender Stratocaster guitar in the cabinet, and it was all burnt, like the end where someone put cigarettes on the machine head and stuff. and apparently it belonged to Eric Clapton, and it was $998,000. And to me, an electric guitar really is just a lump piece of wood with some metal strings on it and some magnets and a coil on it. It's not. Musicians pay a fortune. Have you ever been to the Namm show in LA?
I have not.
Wait, Anaheim. You never been there?
No, I haven't gone. I've seen videos of those events.
Oh, yeah, I was there on the first iconic Namm Jam, and I went for several years. And it makes some great people. It's a wonderful place to meet people. But you get amplifiers that cost a fortune to get a perfect sound, and you get guitars that cost a fortune because they're supposed to be made in a certain way, and they've all been made in America, and they come from Mexico or Taiwan or Japan or China. Like, normally a Gibson or a Strat or a Fender, and then they get all these guitar pedals to fuck the sound up completely, to make it sound like, well, distorted. You might as well have started. And that's how it was. When Ray Davis from the Kinks recorded You Really Got Me, he just had an old amplifier with broken speakers in it, and that's how they got the distortion. When Jimi Hendrix got all those great sounds, he didn't use them masses of stuff. He used like 2 distortion pedals going through a small amplifier, and it's mic'd up in the studio. You don't need to do that. It's so weird how people are. It's just, I can't understand it. I got a Marshall amplifier that I got when I was about, I think it's a 1963 Marshall amp. I used it in the summertime. I still got it, right? And in that shop, I think they'd won a similar one, not such a good condition as mine. I think it was about $65,000. I thought, this is crazy. It's really crazy. And that was without the speakers. I look after it and keep it in my studio. But to me, it's kind of madness. And you can get. There's been like, I had a massive hit in Europe with a song called Hello Nadine, and it's all, there's only me on it. I played everything on it apart from, I think I played everything apart from the piano, actually. Yeah, as far as I can remember. Anyway, it was a massive hit, and I used a bass guitar on there that I bought second hand for £11. And I often use it. I started using it again now. One of my sons got it refurbished for me, and I didn't even want it refurbished because it sounds unique. And if it sounds right, if it sounds right, it is right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you spend a fortune or whatever. Sometimes it's like Leadbelly. Leadbelly played a stellar 12-string guitar, and they used to get those stellar 12-string guitars, or stellar guitars, in, I don't know how to say, Walmart or somewhere. Yeah, and they were cheap. These old blues guys, they didn't have the money to go and buy expensive instruments. They bought all this, what they could afford, and they made these iconic recordings on them. Unbelievable. Have you heard of Stephen Crossman?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes, I met Stephen Crossman in Rome, and he told me he went out and he found himself a stellar guitar. So when I went and trying to find myself a stellar guitar, I found one, but I found it to be unplayable. So I gave up. But Leadbelly did an absolutely brilliant job playing it. Like, to me, king of the 12-string guitar players. Yeah, that's my little take on musical instrument. I could go on and on and on and on and on about that as well. But again, I wish you would tell me to stop talking.
Well, I'll tell you something I'm curious about. Is it true that the great Bob Dylan used to use your song in his sound checks?
Yeah, I've got a recording, got 4 different versions. And an album came out, a bootleg album called Important Words. And there's 4 different versions in the summertime on there. And he's singing the same words. And then later on, he wrote a song called In the Summertime himself.
Yeah.
And all I know about it is that it's nothing like my song, but Ronnie Wood is playing guitar on it. And then on Bob Dylan's radio show that he has for New York, he played In the Summertime on there, and he said such good things about it. And he said that the name Mungo Jerry comes from the book Old Possum's book of, I don't know if he said Old Possum's book, but it's kind of Old Possum's book of Practical Cats by T.S. Eliot. Yeah, Mungo Jerry is a cat in the book, but Mungo Jerry is it's Mungojerrie and not the Jerry like you would get in Tom and Jerry, the cartoon characters. And I've got Mungo Jerry, two separate words. Mungo Jerry is all one word, and he talks about this and talks about coming from the cats, and then he says, "Well, I know what I would prefer to listen to," and he plays in the summertime. And I go, what a compliment. Because when I did a reggae version of Knocking on Heaven's Door. There was a big hit in Southern Africa. And I've got a great 12-inch dub version of it that my friend Tim Green mixed down. And when Bob Dylan heard this version of Knocking on Heaven's Door, I don't even got the correct words. I got a report back, and he said it was the best cover version of it that he'd heard at that particular time.
Wow.
and that's another thing, you see, because I'm a massive, massive admirer of Bob Dylan. And that's probably because Bob Dylan he was a massive admirer of Woody Guthrie. And obviously you can listen to the vocal style. But then so unfortunately a load of my vinyl got stolen. And when Bob Dylan made the album, he covered a lot of country songs. I can't remember what the album was called now. But he sang a lot of stuff that he liked. I mean, why not? I mean, if you like, it's like me. I could say, right, I like Irving Berlin, or I like, I don't know, Cole Porter or something, and I'll get some of these songs and I make an album of cover versions just because I like them, something I want to do. But I probably wouldn't do it. But I don't want to be scared of the fact that it's good that Bob Dylan likes a particular stuff and it doesn't fit in with what a rock journalist was just want to write about. Why not own up to what you like? If you like it, you like it. I got brought up on all kinds of music, and as I say, there was no limit. It was when I played for fun. I started playing for fun when I got my first guitar when I was 10 years old for Christmas. So about I was born in March, so after about 3 months, I'd learned to play, learned what to do with the chord. So I got this. So the music that we had around those times was called Skiffle. And the purveyor of Skiffle in the UK was Lonnie Donegan. And Lonnie Donegan had a #1 hit with a song called Rock Island Line, which obviously by Lead Belly and a lot of other people. And it was a big hit in America. And the thing about Lonnie Donegan was, as a Skiffle group, the Skiffle group was kind of basically a kind of like, do you know what spasm music is?
No, I don't know.
It's a bit like jug band. Spasm music is the music, I probably play it a rent party music. See, there might only be one legitimate instrument in the house. It could be a piano. It might not even be a piano. It might just be a guitar. So the percussion would be played on a suitcase or a cardboard box, and the bass would be. They would either use a jug, but then they would call it jug band music, or they would use a box. In England, I don't know if it's the same in America. You know what a tea chest is? You know what tea chest bass is?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, a wooden broom handle, yeah, with one piece of string tied to one end and the other end tied to the box, and you put it onto the box, and the tea chest is a box that you put back. People obviously tea chest is what you put tea in, but people use them when they're moving house to wrap all their glassware and their crockery and stuff up in newspaper or anything else, or their ornaments, and put it all in the box and move it around. And obviously, if it's empty, it would resonate when you got a bit of string on it. So you go doom, 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 doom. So it didn't even matter if you didn't get the right note, as long as you got the groove and the rhythm, because a lot of people can't even hear the notes of a bass, especially when it's deep. They just get the feeling from it and the rhythm and the groove. You see, so a spasm music video like a rent party. So when it was cold in the winter, the family or the guy or the wife or the woman, they had these rent parties. They'd charge an entrance fee to come into the house. And then you'd have a whole load of bootleg whiskey or illicit, homemade wine and stuff. And people would jump around and dance to this music in the house, all being drunk on whatever, this everything homemade, moonshine, whatever, and they would have fun. They'd make music, and the sweat and all the energy that the people dispersed from their dancing and jumping up and having fun warmed up the apartment. Did you know about all this?
Interesting.
Didn't you know about this?
No,
Right.
no.
And this is where the skiffle music came from. So in England, so the skiffle became a T-chest bass, a guitar, and there wouldn't normally be a banjo in it, or two acoustic guitars, and that was it. And there'd be no percussion. But Lonnie Donegan's band, he had an electric guitar player, and he played the acoustic guitar, but he'd also been a banjo player for, I think it was Chris Barber's jazz band, and he started playing the music that he knew in the break, because they would do a set and then there'd be a 20-minute break. So Lonnie would take over, and he was playing like Leadbelly songs, gospel songs, Woody Guthrie songs, whatever, and mess around with them. That was an influence on me. I just did a thing for a radio where they asked me to suggest a couple of 78 RPM, you know shellac records, 78 10-inch records, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They asked me to suggest a couple to play, and one of them was the live recording called Gambling Man that was recorded at the London Palladium live, Sunday night London Palladium show, and it was a big hit, and it's phenomenal. He's got an electric guitar in it, which is not normal for skiffle, but well, maybe this is interesting for your listeners or yourself if you want to go do a bit more research on that kind of music. But funny enough, have you heard of a book? Now, I can't remember who wrote it, because I've given it away to one of my colleagues. The book is called How the Beatles Destroyed Rock and Roll. Do you know this one?
I've heard of this book. I've not read it.
Unfortunately, there's no mention of skiffle or jug band music in that book. And it's a whole history of American music. But those genres are not mentioned. And I really think it's important to go back and study the history of jug band music. Because, like New Orleans jazz and all this traditional kind of music, it kind of came out of that.
Yeah.
There's some great, do you know, like Memphis, have you heard of the Memphis Jug Band?
Yeah.
And Pickaninny Jug Band, all that. It's really interesting.
Interesting stuff.
It's a bit like the early, I really always liked watching Popeye cartoons. And it's like those early Popeye cartoons with Olive Oil and stuff. That sort of music that they had in those cartoons, those 2D black and white cartoons.
Interesting stuff. There's so much music to explore. That's for sure.
Mm.
I want all the listeners out there, if they want to check out mungojerry.com, it's MUNGOJERRY. I very much enjoyed this opportunity. I hope we get a chance to speak again. I always allow the guest just to say whatever they want to anyone who's tuned in. So in closing,
I'll tell you what I'm going to say.
What's that?
Oh, yeah, go on.
In closing, what would you say to our listeners?
I'd say, at the end of every live show that I've done for probably about the past 45 years, maybe, nearly 50 years, I say, good night, God bless. I want you to all get home safely, take care, be kind to children, old people, and animals. Try and treat everybody else the way you want to be treated yourself. Have fun in the sun.
Beautiful.
That's something. That's what I normally say. Something, but I might say good night and God bless last. But that's it. And I think that's what else can you say? I'll tell you what, Paul. It'd be great if you. I don't know if it's a bit. I know I've spoken for a long, long time, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me and not tell me to shut up. But it's very, very nice, and it's a great honour for you to be so interested in my past or my history or my take on things, because we haven't just spoken about music. We've actually covered a some life things, haven't we?
Oh,
Which
yeah.
has been very interesting. And what I would like to do is have another talk with you and ask you some questions
I would be honored.
about how you got involved in the music, how you got to become a broadcaster, how you became a music fan, and anything else that you've done, or you know, or I don't know if you write or if you're a journalist, or I don't know what you do. Obviously, is this your full-time occupation or whatever? And also, we have to know how we can all get through the pandemic and stay on top of things, which we're definitely not being on top of things at the moment. But that's we have to look at that. But if you're interested, I'd love to have that conversation with you.
I am so honored that you would think to do that, and I would be honored to do that.
Oh, really? Oh, well, God bless you.
God bless you.
Okay. Well, look, it's been lovely to talk to you, and you've got my email address. I'll make arrangements so I can talk to you and record you too.
All right, sounds great.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Well, you take care, and we'll stay safe and well.
Yes,
okay?
sir. Good night, and God bless.
Thanks very much. Yeah. God bless you. Bye.
Ba doodly beep bop dee da dee bumpity boo rapati naza jip bop kila kanat sagil bond good tingiga manga but yeah hunga again say back in the e daga go I got the inga rock tinga langa bo akika oh goodbye.